Good morning, everyone. This is Diane. I am so excited that today is the day I get to share with you the flip through of these two large Christmas journals. They were very fun to make. They have so many fun elements in them. There's lots of texture, there's lots of vintage and even antique items within each journal. And yeah, they're just so big and yummy. But before I do a flip through of them, I just want to let you know what's coming up with the Christmas journals. I got my supplies out enough to see what was left to make, and this is the one that said, "Do me next," and this is the Woodlands journal. I ended up having quite a few supplies to make a Woodlands journal. Fabrics, paper, and I decided on this cover. And I'm only going to go to, I'm not sure the date. I was thinking mid-November, but I might want to stop before that. But once I reach, I'm going to make my decision today. Once I reach that certain point in making journals, I'll be done for the year. And I still have these to do. I decided not to do the fabric placemat. That's gonna, well, I think I already did put that in my shop and I sold it. But I have Santa's Toy Shop, and this, I found the back cover. Can you believe it? It was missing for like 2 years. And I found it. So, a traditional Christmas journal, and then the gospel story, the story of Jesus. So, I have those three plus the Woodlands to do, if I get to them. Now, without any further ado, let's go through this one. This is a large craft book, Better Homes and Gardens, American Christmas Crafts and Foods. This is from 1984. The cover is glossy, as you can see. Both of these books measure the same. They're both Better Homes and Gardens Christmas craft books. This is 8 by 11, I think. Yep, 8 by 11. So that's what they both are. And they both have a 2.5-inch spine. I made the spines nice and big because I knew I'd be putting a lot of elements in them. So they're pretty full, but there is still room. There is space between the signatures. So if you add more to your pages, there'll be room. So as let me talk about the cover. I used this blue plush decorator fabric. It was vintage. I got it at a flea market, and I just love it. It's so soft, and it's got wales, so it's got the like strips, like a corduroy wales, and it has 3 signatures. I added a blue eyelet here and just tied this vintage bell on. I got this in a box of stuff at a flea market a few years ago. And it was a vintage decoration that was very ugly, but I saved the bells off of it. I used the packaging a couple years ago on a journal. I added, just for embellishment, I added this chenille fringe. It came off of a chenille blanket. And this pom-pom trim. This is not vintage. And this, I don't know if it's vintage or not. I think it is, and it came from Sweden, from my friend Eve. She has a shop called the Snippet Shop. She has beautiful items in her shop. And on the back it just has the pom-pom trim and this piece of fabric and more applique on the back. I like the design. This book was full of images of like a whole scenes, double page scenes that someone had appliqued. So that was a really nice feature. Both of the books feature pages that actually came from the book and embellishments that I made from other pages in those books. On the inside cover, there's some blue fabric on the spine, and there is Tyvek supporting the spine, so it shouldn't come apart. And there's chipboard. I created a new spine with chipboard. There's scrapbook paper here. I cut this paper just a little bit short, so I added a strip there that I edge cut, and I think that really makes a nice touch anyway, so that was a happy mistake. There's a photo sleeve here, and I just sewed it to a piece of vintage Christmas music and glued it down, and then I added this tag. And there is a snowflake napkin applique or Mod Podged to the tag. On the first page, we have pages sewn together. I did do a video or two showing how I extended my pages. They just needed to be a little bit longer or wider to fit into the book nicely. This is one of the images from the book, and I just put it on some cardstock. And this is a digital page that was left over from a previous journal. I just put it in there. You can journal on it. I did not do any inking to anything. That's a reproduction postcard. It is vintage, but it's not old. There's a pencil. Somebody wrote a price on the back. I got it in a box full of stuff, so it said $1. I didn't pay $1 for it. Here is a page from an Ideals book with this happy young girl on Christmas and some trim. There's all sorts of vintage wallpaper or wrapping paper in these journals. Here is a music page, and I reinforced the fold with paper. Oh, that's the same song as on the front. And this songbook has some pretty illustrations too. That's a postcard, U.S. postage. It's kind of funny. I got these stamps from my friend Nancy in Canada, but it's a U.S. postage stamp. And I got 3 different packs of different stamps, and they're all U.S. Here is a nice big fabric flip. Beautiful fabric, and this fabric with the music for Jingle Bells and just a little holly sprig strip that I cut into a banner shape. And underneath it is a teacher's planner page. Lots of space for writing. Here is another digital that was left over from a journal I made last year, and I added this fabric tag. To extend this page, I added a bingo card, a vintage green bingo card, and then I sewed it on as a pocket and then made this out of one of the illustrations from this book. Added a tab, just goes in there. And I decorated the bare back of the bingo card with that leftover digital piece. Some more, another page from the craft book. And this is from a children's craft book. Large red doily. I extended this page by adding a strip of paper, and I tucked this piece. It was already pieced together like this, and I just tucked it in there and caught it in the seam. This is from a 1922 magazine called Woman's Home Companion. It is from the title page of the magazine, so it has the name of the magazine, the editor, and it says Christmas 1992, Volume 4, Number 12. And some beautiful illustrations. This one says Christmas Eve, and this one says Christmas Day. I know you can't see it very well. And I made it a pocket. I put it on cardstock. And then this came from the same magazine. Over 100 Christmas gifts, so it's got all these gifts, ideas for gifts. And I backed it onto an oversized piece of graph paper. You can journal on the back. And I tucked in this beautiful photograph of a happy little girl on Christmas. You can see the tree over here and more presents. So cute. Here's a page from a golden book, The Night Before Christmas. This book, I just had the pages, the cover was damaged, so I just used some of the pages. Here is a vintage page from a ledger, and it's got a tab, and I sewed some fabric to the edge. And a page from this book. A beautiful gold envelope from a Christmas card. And inside I tucked this page from, it came in an envelope. You will see the envelope. There are several pieces that came with this, and I got this at a flea market. And this is Christmas butter cookies, how to pack them in different size boxes, how to gift wrap them, and how to outer wrap them and ship them. I had to fold it a little bit so it would fit in the envelope. And of course, you can put whatever you want in these large spaces. I had said in the previous video that I wasn't going to fill all the big pockets, but then I found these things that I had set aside for these big journals, and you'll see more. Magazine pages, the envelopes that I put in the center. I just set these things aside for the big journals and then forgot about them. Fortunately, I found them before I bound them together. This is fun. It's got a sawtooth fabric edging, which is really fun, and then this from a Grinch, How the Grinch Stole Christmas printed fabric that I received in a Happy Mail. I just cut pieces out and used them in the journals. Here is a red and white polka dot library pocket I've had for quite some time. This was the last one, and I sewed it, or I glued it here because I had sewn, you can see some of the stitching up there, but I covered up most of it. Just glued on a piece of old wrapping paper and some postage stamps. There's a red library card, a piece from the book, and an old postage stamp, and a couple of printable. Oh, this is a printable, and this is a cut apart from a scrapbook paper. And here is a large, well, it's a half size actually, folder, but it makes a large journaling card in this book. It is half the size of a manila folder, and it has ledger inside, which is really, really, really cool. I love this. And I'm really glad I had a place to put it. So I Mod Podge napkin to it, added some trim, and added this picture, and paper clipped it to the page. There's one of those in each of the journals. This is a piece of fabric that I got from my friend Leslie. Her Etsy shop is called The Snippet Shop. I got these fabrics a year or so ago, and they were already cut out. Someone had fussy cut all these pieces of beautiful fabric, and I thought they were so fun. I just glued them to cardstock, and I had to do my own fussy cutting after I did that. But she doesn't have these anymore. There was only one set, and I got them, but if you visit the Snippet Shop on Etsy, you'll see all the fun things that Leslie has. And, oops, I was going to glue that together. Let's do that now before I forget. This is an envelope from Dreams, Etc. on Etsy. And it was a set of, I forgot if it's 5 or 6 envelopes. And this is the only one I had left. I printed them from last year. I could always print them again, of course, but for these journals, I just wanted to use supplies that I already had. Printed. Here's the other side of that digital page, and I stamped some ornaments on there. Somebody sent this to me in a Happy Mail, and it's kind of fun. I just added, there were staples there, and I added that gold rickrack to cover the staples. So you can cut those pieces of fabric off and use them in the book if you want to. The fabric, music paper, I folded it over, and this end I glued down and just put a couple of cards in there. The other side of the Ideals page. And on this, I extended it just a little bit by adding this large page from a poetry book, Christmas poetry book. And it is a pocket here. And this is one of the large pages that I found last night from a magazine, and it's from Betty Crocker, advertising a loose leaf notebook for your recipes. And the back is just a fun picture for you to look at. And then I just tucked in the last remaining page that I had of that Night Before Christmas golden book. Second signature, I added this plaid ruffle fabric there, and I glued this. It's a reproduction of a vintage postcard, but this is vintage itself. It's a reproduction of an antique postcard. But the book itself was old. And this was just a scrapbook paper I cut into a tag shape. And just a page from a vintage moving company paper pad. Just for fun. There's another ideals page, and I paper clipped this adorable Christmas photo from July 1962. That is so sweet. And here is one of the embellishments I made with my fancy die and my metallic cardstock, and this is a green, beautiful emerald green. And I painstakingly put glue on all those little curlicues and glued it to a piece of acetate. And here is an ad from a vintage magazine. Make your lamps into Christmas trees. You can bring Hollywood's famous Christmas tree lane right into your home. So this is from House of Hollywood. And you can write on the back. And here is a candy cane that I made with my Cricut and had left over from my Christmas Sweets journals. Another piece of wrapping paper. Another fabric flip. Fabric there, digital leftover. Here's another one of my fabric flowers, and this journaling card, which came from one of these books. This is a computer stationery page. And there's the Grinch, and some vintage silver metallic trim. And again, it's the poetry page pocket, and inside this is a large page from the 1922 book. I left the date up there, but it's from Woman's Home Companion again, and it's cheerful Christmas red, gifts and decorating items for your home. And I glued it to the grid paper again. Another ledger book page. This is a flap from a dust jacket, and I added a list sheet there. It says my never-ending Christmas list, and a partridge in the pear tree stamp. Here's another large pocket or envelope in the center, and this came out of the Woman's Home Companion magazine, and it's an order form for a subscription. So there's lots of really cool, fun, vintage things in these books. Here's the front page of the book jacket. It's the nature notes of an Edwardian lady, but it has holly on it, and the beautiful birds. A robin, blackbird and robin and hedge sparrows, and a blue tit, and ivy and holly. So perfect for Christmas with the holly and the ivy. I wrapped a wide fabric around the edge of this page to extend it. Added a vintage coaster and a piece from the book. And this has a greeting card sewn to it as a pocket. So there are a couple of printables that I had from last year tucked in the pocket. There's lots of room to write. Large pages and large things tucked in pockets and things that you can write on. Another coaster here and a couple more digital elements that got stuck in there. The ideals page with some fabric, some soldiers stamped on there. And this is a 6x6 paper cardstock, decorative cardstock. It's got the stripes on the back, and it's a tuck spot this way. And I Mod Podged a napkin to this long repair tag. This is a pattern on a grid that I cut out from one of these books, glued it to cardstock, and it's a tuck spot, and I tucked in this vintage greeting card. There, the bottom got glued together, and you can open that up and write on it. There's lots of threads hanging. I used my stamps on this page, but I did them in gold embossing, and this is the Tim Holtz clear it's not clear, it's green, but it's sheer. I forgot what it's called, but embossing, I forgot, but it's really cool and I like it. Here's a puppy on this Ideals page, and I added this die cut holly sprig here, and some pretty ribbon and a vintage postage stamp, wrapping paper, some more stamps, made with my Cricut, and then this soldier is one of the patterns that I cut out from one of these books. You can write on the back. Here's a fabric flip made with that Grinch fabric. Another fabric tab up there. A Holly Hobby Christmas card. And there's a pocket back here. I love this piece from a vintage magazine from 1958. I wrote the date on there. It's the Christmas season hinting license. This is to certify that the signer of this license is a bona fide Christmas hinter with full hinting rights for the 1958 season. This person is deserving of only the very finest Christmas gifts, those made with aluminum naturally, and has authority to hint for the most wanted gifts listed below. From the Reynolds Metal Company. I'm assuming that they are the Reynolds Wrap people. But there's paper you can write on the back. Here is a page from one of these books with beautiful stained glass nativity. More computer stationery, a gold doily. Here is a glassine bag that I Mod Podged a napkin to and tucked this tag in there. This tag did have a red border all the way around, but I had to trim the border off so it would fit in there. And I just made a hinge on this postcard. This is cut from a scrapbook paper. So you can flip it open, you could put a photo here, put a photo here, whatever. This is a cover from the Ideals book. And there's a pretty little envelope tucked in here, which I made with my Cricut, or my Big Shot. I just got this die, at Hobby Lobby. I think this is a Hobby Lobby exclusive die by Sizzix. And it's for a gift card. You would tuck a gift card in that slot and then put it in here, but I'm not using it for a gift card. Another ledger. So every signature has vintage ledger, but everyone is from a different ledger book. I just glued this angel note paper onto that page that you can write on. And here we have some Santa Claus note paper, several sheets of it. I just layered them up there and sewed this trim at the top. There's some more Who's from the Grinch fabric and another fabric trim. Oh, I have to put something in that pocket. So this is cardstock that I Mod Podged that pretty napkin to. I missed one pocket. Here's a vintage card. It's not a postcard. It doesn't open up, but it was signed from Pete, Bertha, and Homer. And it's just a beautiful old postcard. I do have this in my Christmas postcard digital set. It comes out smaller than this, but that's the original piece I'm including in this book. Well, the paper clip got caught on that fabric, so I'm going to glue that fabric back down to the cardstock and I guess move the paper clip up. And tucked into this piece is another piece from Craft Books. This is a sheer glittery fabric, which is so cool. I zigzag stitched it all around to this because it frays very easily. And I thought it was fun to put the Christmas tree lights, strings, fabric behind it. So we have the trees and the lights that go on the trees. I made this hat with my Cricut and tucked a leftover digital card in there. And here's another pocket made with the poetry page, and this is an embossed cardstock that I rubbed gold paint on. This is just a card that was handmade, and an antique postcard. This is just a card I had in my stash. It was a large, I guess it was cardstock. I just glued some pieces down, but I liked the colors with this book, so I tucked them in here. I guess was this animal in there? Oh, I was wondering, he goes in the hat, and when I did a flip through, I thought, why is there nothing in the hat? That was supposed to be in there, but I'll leave that card in there too. And then a fabric bow at the top of the page. This is one of the applique images that I cut from the book. I put my signature there, and a beautiful little Christmas card. So there's lots in this book, and there's lots of room for writing and storing your memories. This one is American Christmas. I'll just call this one American Christmas. And this one will be called Treasury of Christmas. I'll have to go through this one more quickly. This is 1980, and it's not as shiny. It is a matte finish. And it's got this vintage trim, again, from Switzerland, from Eve, and some pom-pom trim. And I love this plaid fabric with it, and the green rickrack. I think they just look great. Yeah, I showed you the back on that one. So I like that they have different pictures on the front and the back. It's like one big, if you had opened up the whole book with the spine there, you would see that it's all one big picture. I do want to point out that when I poked my holes, my template must have wiggled, and so the bottom stitches got moved over, so you can see that it's a little crooked, but it doesn't show up much on that plaid. Again, it has the bell and the same sort of tag thing at the beginning. So I'll try to talk less and just show you vintage Christmas card here with writing on it, and it comes with the card, the envelope that's all scribbled on. 1942. Ideals page. This is a vintage napkin piece. Wrapping paper. Here's the bingo card. This one is red, the other one was green. Some fabric ruffle there. Again, this is from the 1922 Woman's Home Companion magazine, and it says, "Bringing in the Yule log." It's just such a beautiful, beautiful piece of art. And inside is another image from that magazine. It's a story illustration. This couple is coming in the room with their arms laden with packages. And in this envelope is a form to subscribe to the American Home magazine. I don't think there's a date on here, but it is pretty old. I had to fold one end so that it would fit. This one has a large tabbed card, a vintage card. It has a J on it, so that could be joy to the world. And And I just tucked a large index card in there and used a brad to attach that little digital tag. There's a snowman I cut out of fabric. This is a Christmas stereoscope card. It says World Series 197 Christmas Morning. It's the only Christmas one I had. And this is from scrapbook paper. Here's a folder with the ledger inside. And there's a pocket here. And this came with that cookie thing. The other book had the information for how to pack and mail cookies and stuff. These are patterns that you could use to make your cookies. I don't know if I cut that out and used it last year or if it was already cut out and used, but you get all the rest of the patterns. And you can cut them out and use them as embellishments in your journal. And I took this wreath image from one of these books and backed it on red cardstock and cut the center out and made it a tuck spot, made it a pocket actually, and made this tag with a piece of vintage doily at the top. Tucked behind this, and I think I wanted to add something else here. It's just another one of those moving company vintage papers. I meant to put something bigger here. Here is another vintage photo. And another of the embellishments on acetate. And this is from a vintage magazine advertising the Better Homes Handyman's book for your man for Christmas. And a cute little gingerbread boy that I made with my Cricut. Fabric flip with fun candy canes. Some fabric there. This came from the 1922 magazine, Christmas Carol, and it's got the grid paper on the back. Again, this is a flap for a dust jacket from a book. Another gold envelope, and this one has a card that I made from this fabulous vintage image from a magazine. It's from an old magazine. It's just beautiful. And here is the front of the dust jacket from the poetry book that I've been using. There's a vintage coaster and a digital envelope. And in the envelope is a digital tag. And this little book, it came from a little tiny songbook, but it was a Christmas ornament. And I got this in the 1980s, I believe, probably the late 1980s. And it hung on my tree for many years, the book did. And that's the last page that I have. I used pages in journals last year. There's the Holly Hobby card. Some soldiers. The same tag and page that I put in the other book. And the last signature has this gorgeous ornament, stuffed ornament that you could make with this beautiful lady. And I backed her. This is much larger than actual size because I saw a picture of her hanging on the tree. She's not that big. And an old Christmas card with the envelope dated 1942. And again, the embossed jingle bells. And this is the pattern for that lady. There's a card. You can open that up and write on it. And there's a tuck spot behind it. And I just made this tag with some postage stamps to put on there. Another Mod Podged glassine bag. This is digital from my shop of a antique Christmas card. It was just the right width to go in here, so I just glued it to a piece of cardstock and made it into a tag shape. Another reproduction postcard that flips out. And the front cover, I think the other book had, the other side was the back cover, or front, I don't know, one is the front, one is the back cover. Some kind of velvety ribbon with gold metallic on it. And this came from a vintage magazine. Santa Claus presents 3 beautiful Barca-loungers, and they caught him sleeping in one with one of his boots kicked off. This is from 1953. This was cut from one of the craft books. Really cute little felt house, or fabric house anyway, with a Santa and presents. And a digital postcard. I don't remember if that, I don't think this one's from my shop. And a stack of pages. I think there's 3 pages there. Here is the envelope that all those cookie things came in. Your new butter cookie kit from the American Dairy Association. It's just an old envelope. There's nothing in it. You can put something in it if you'd like, but I tucked it in to that big pocket. So glad I had things to do with these big items that I've been saving. There's a Christmas card, a vintage Christmas card tucked in there. And again from the 1922 book, gift packages too pretty to open, yet how tempting. And this is from Denison's. There's an order there to send 10 cents for a copy of your Christmas book using attractive ways to use the Denison Christmas goods for your packages and your home. I'd love to get a look at that book, wouldn't you? And in this packet are 2 pages from vintage magazines, a box of Christmas cards for selling, and I want to see these cards, velour on parchment. And this one is, oh, what's on the back of this? Oh, just a cute baby. This one I backed onto the grid paper, but it's Better Homes and Gardens Christmas Ideas, 1953 edition. And on the back is an image from this book. Somebody made that appliqued and quilted wall hanging. And I tucked an old Christmas card in there from 1942. I think this is supposed to be glued. Looks like maybe it was only attached at the top. I'm just going to leave it, and you can do with it what you want. It's a very pretty card. So there we have it. I know that was a long flip through, but there was so much to see. I didn't mention again the fabric bow at the top and an antique postcard here. Can't read the date. And the embossed card. All right, so Treasury of Christmas and American Christmas. And when you see this video, these journals are in my shop. So I hope that you enjoyed this flip through and got some fun ideas for making journals on your own. And I hope you'll come back to see the next journal, the Woodlands Christmas Journal. Thanks so much for watching, and have a creative day today. Bye-bye.